Hello everyone, welcome back to the Dork side. I am the Dork on the road, and today, here next to the campfire, we're going to talk about 5 tips for new moto campers. That's right everyone, I am the Dork on the road and I want to be your internet riding buddy, and camping buddy, really. And I'm better than your regular camping or riding buddies because I'm available whenever you want, and I come with a mute button, so please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when I post new content like this. So thank you for joining me here next to the campfire. I am, at the moment, moto camping. All that you see here I got onto my motorcycle and brought with me, except for the firewood, which I purchased, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I've learned a few things along the way, embarking on this moto camping journey. I'm definitely not like a super experienced veteran moto camper, so I have a few trips under my belt, and I just want to talk about a few things, kind of things that I wish I had known before I started, a few tips for new moto campers. Tip number 1, and this is a hard one to learn, especially if you're a person who likes to camp, do regular camping, car camping, if you're camping like an RV or something. This is a hard one to really wrap your head around sometimes, but you need less stuff than you think you do. You really do, especially for a short trip. Like this is a one-nighter. So ultimately, so long as you can sleep and probably eat, but even then you can get by for a day. I'm not saying plan on not eating, but if something were to go wrong, so long as you have a place to sleep, get your sleeping bag, sleeping pad, maybe a tent, you can get through the night. You can have, in fact, an enjoyable moto camping experience. I have a few luxuries with me this time, like the chair I'm sitting in, because there's a there's a picnic table right here that I could be sitting at. But you need less stuff than you think, for sure. When I go camping, I like to bring, or at least I used to like to bring, a lot of just-in-case items. So, you know, toilet paper, just in case there's none in the bathroom at the campground. Paper plates, just in case my plastic plate, something happens to it. Extra silverware, just in case I break something, right? A bunch of extra clothes, just in case it rains, or it gets cold at night, or my feet get uncomfortable, I need a different pair of shoes, things like that. And I don't know, the point of moto camping is minimalism. It really is, to a degree. I'm not saying you don't bring a few luxuries, but I didn't bring my regular shoes because I'm fine in my Icon Super Duty 5s. These boots are fine for walking around. I did bring a pair of flip-flops because they're small and they pack down, but even that is probably a luxury. I never actually put them on. Avoid bringing too many things that you don't know you need. Okay, if you can't see yourself needing to use the thing, think about not bringing it. You don't need everything that you would take on a car camping trip. Here's what you need. You need a place to sleep. You need something to cook with. Probably need something to eat, something to drink. It's good to have your riding gear, obviously. You're not going to bring a bunch of filming gear like I do, probably. But think about the necessities. What do you touch every time you go camping? Your space is limited, so really, really think about paring down your camping setup. So thing number 1, you need less stuff than you think you need. Thing number 2, plan ahead. Okay, they all kind of tie together, but plan ahead. When I go camping out of my truck, I just throw everything in the truck and go, right? And I have everything in a box, and I have every eventuality covered. But for moto camping, I really feel like it's important to think, like I said, about the stuff that you need, the specific stuff that you need. And I think ahead of time. Here's a good idea for planning ahead. It's a thing that kind of seems kind of anal-retentive, but once you do it once, it can help you every other time. So I make a list. I have a list of everything I need for moto camping. Okay, and it's helpful for 2 reasons. 1, it helps me not forget anything, and 2, it means that if I want to take something that's not on that list, I got to think twice about it. It helps me consider what I need and what I don't need. So last night when I laid everything out, I went to that list and just double checked that I had everything I need. Because it's easy to get excited or get in a hurry and forget something. So you got to plan ahead. And it's also easy to take things that you think you might need and then you end up not needing them. See item number 1. You need less things than you think you do. So plan ahead, make a list, and then once you get it kind of down, you have like a sort of go-to moto camping setup, you're probably good. But especially your first few times, just think about it, make a list. Look at some gear videos. Look at my gear video if you want, just for an example of the kind of things you could bring. Plan ahead, make a list, check your list twice, make sure there's nothing on there you don't actually need, okay? All right, number 3, this is something that I wish that I had done last year, and this year I did it. That's why I'm here at LC Falls. Start small, okay? Your first camping trip should not be a 7-night state-spanning extravaganza. If you want to go moto camping, plan somewhere close that you know, that you're aware of, that you know what the amenities are and what the situation is there. Somewhere, ideally, and this is going to sound, I don't know, some of you may think this is overkill. That's up to you. You know, make your own choices, but I think it's a good idea to go somewhere close enough that if it went bad or you figured out you didn't have something you needed, you could get home. You could drive home. So somewhere within an hour. Think about a place you can camp that's less than an hour from home. Ideally somewhere that you've been before. So a shakedown trip. Think about it like that. So you can go out, set everything up, and actually need it, and make sure you have what you need, for one. And two, pay attention to what you actually use. So if there are things that you brought and you don't use them, think about taking them out next time, right? Really be mindful of what you actually touch when you go out. If there's stuff that stays in your side case the whole time, unless it's like a disaster supply. So like I have my air compressor and my patch kit in case I got a flat tire. I hope I don't need to touch that, but I am going to bring it every time. If there's other luxury things or things that you think you need while you're camping that you don't, like an extra sweatshirt, for instance. If you bring an extra sweatshirt, you don't end up using it. Because you have a riding jacket you can throw on, I assume, you probably don't need it. Be strategic, start small, do a shakedown run somewhere close. Pay attention to what you use and revise the list you made for next time, okay? Learn from your experience. Number 4 is about gear. Your regular camping gear will work to a degree. But if you're thinking about specific moto camping gear, or you don't have a bunch of camping gear, and you want to get some to go moto camping, backpacking gear is a great place to start because it's designed to be packable and small, okay, not take up a lot of space. Here's the good thing about moto camping. Backpacking gear gets more and more expensive, and usually the thing that makes it more expensive is it's lighter, okay? So for instance, this tin cup, right? This is stainless steel, okay? I'm sure they make a titanium version. And I'm sure it weighs half as much and costs twice as much. But it's the same size. So I'm not actually putting the weight on my back. That's the difference between moto camping and backpacking is I don't have to carry it. And so backpacking gear is good, but you don't have to buy the super expensive stuff because weight is way less of a concern. Okay? Keep that in mind. So you can buy a cheap backpacking tent, a cheap mess kit, right? Made of stainless steel, not titanium. You don't need titanium because you're not carrying it around. You don't need to save those ounces necessarily. Space, packability is more important on a moto camping trip than weight. So something that packs down smaller but weighs more is okay. Tents, for instance. Tents tend to pack down to about the same size, so you can buy a cheaper one because you don't need it to be super lightweight. If you can sleep in a hammock, you can save a whole bunch of space, but I like to have a tent on the ground, bring a sleeping pad. Inflatable sleeping pads are better than foam pads space-wise. My Climate Static V rolls up to the size of a soda can, basically. But if I had a foam pad, it would be, you know, the size of a long loaf of bread, the size of a baguette, you might say. So, backpacking gear, but you don't have to buy the most expensive backpacking gear because weight is less of a concern. You need less stuff than you think. Plan ahead, make a list, do a close-by shakedown short trip to just test out your gear, first of all. Maybe even just go meet someone you know who's already camping and see if your gear works out. 4 is think about backpacking gear if you need gear, but you don't have to buy the expensive stuff. You can buy cheap backpacking gear. And number 5, and this is one I just wrestled with, so it's fresh on my mind. But as I mentioned, one of the big differences between a moto camping trip and a car or truck camping trip is the amount of stuff you can bring, okay? So when I go camping in my truck, I throw a bunch of firewood in the back. On a motorcycle, that's not really possible. I don't have room for it. So you got to plan ahead for that. There's a couple ways to make that happen. One, you could just not have a fire and just use your backpacking stove or whatever to cook your food. And that may be an option, and maybe you bring dehydrated meals, or you bring ramen, or you bring oatmeal, things that you can cook in a pot where you can boil water on over a camping backpacking stove. Totally fine. You can do that. But if you want a fire, you got to plan ahead and think about it, okay? You could bring one fire log. That'll buy you about 2 hours. I've done that before. They're small, but it's not ideal. So you have to know the place you're going. So I knew this campground sells firewood. I had a little scare because the camp host wasn't there. I thought maybe he was not here today and I wouldn't be able to get any. And the reason it was a scare was because I planned on cooking over the fire. I was cooking my steaks over the fire. Make sure there's either firewood available at the campground or a nearby town, and by nearby I mean close enough that you could set everything up and then go back on your bike and strap a bundle of firewood to the back and come back. Because my guess is you can't carry all your gear and firewood at the same time. If you can, good for you. Or if you're dispersed camping, or at least near a place where you can get into the woods, plan on gathering your own. And if you're going to do that, you need a tool, probably. Not everyone. Some people just take smaller sticks, break them up just to make enough to cook on. I like to have a fire all night, so I like more wood than that. So hatchet or a silky saw. You've seen the silky saw in action in the 5 reasons why dual sport's the best first motorcycle video and the dual sport gear video. So check those out if you're curious what that looks like. But if you're going to gather wood, make sure you have a way to process it, because you can't just, well, you can throw logs in the fire, but it's hard to get a fire started like that. I have a big ash. Is it an ash or a bug? It has antenna. It's a bug. A bug died in my bourbon. I'm going to try not to drink them. Those are the 5 tips for new moto campers. So help me out. I'm pretty new at this still. I would love to hear your tips. What are things, pro tips that you've discovered about moto camping, or even camping in general, but specifically motorcycle camping as much as possible? What are tips, tricks for new moto campers, things that I can incorporate? What are pieces of gear that you should think about bringing? What are things that you think you need but you don't? Tell me in the comments. So I just want to say thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Thanks for joining me here next to the fire. I enjoyed hanging out with you. And as always, please do not forget to be excellent to each other. Thank you.
Excellent!